All right? Okay. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Planning Board meeting for today, Tuesday, June 18th. The meeting is being recorded, just so everyone's aware of that. I'm Hazel Nurse, the chairman of the board. To my far left is John Pizzozzi.
It's okay. Pizzoni.
I mangle it every time.
It's okay.
John Gelschus. To my far right is Kristen Bellinger, our PA, Administrative Assistant, Pete Bouchard, and Mark Silverberg. We have a fairly long meeting tonight, but I don't think any of the items really should take too long. So we'll start out with number 1, which is an A&R for 6 Denny Street. And I believe we have Randy, or...
Short of them, too.
Okay, all right.
Barry Atchison with WDA Design Group representing for this A&R project. So a piece of land just around the corner here off of Dennis Street. They are subdividing or changing some of the property lines, selling some to the left property and another chunk off the top. To make the top lot a little bit more conforming from what I understand. And the homeowner at 3 would like to maintain that area as an open space, so as purchase some land from Mrs. Hoyler to that Mary Way.
All right. Are there any questions from the board on this A&R? Just for the benefit of the audience that may be watching us, an A&R is a plan which is, approval is not required. So that'll be fairly straightforward. Mark, you have something to say?
Yeah, so in the past on A&Rs, we've had language that stated that there's no guarantee that the lot is in conformance with zoning. That would be subject to a building commissioner decision upon application or something like that. And I don't see it on this A&R.
I don't know. I guess my feeling is
I didn't see
that
any
is-
comments from
yeah.
Fred on it.
Right.
But I
We
just
can
wonder.
handwrite it on if we want to write endorsement by the planning board does not constitute approval of zoning or something like that.
Yeah, that's typically the language.
We can just handwrite it on if we want.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be like, they don't have to put it,
Yeah, I
reprint
mean,
it.
do you have an objection with that?
No objection.
It's not, okay, I mean, I would prefer just in case down the road Fred looks at it and for some reason it's not buildable, we haven't represented it in that way.
Well, I don't think by approving it, we've represented that it is a building lot. We're just talking about, but I agree with you. There's no reason not to put
I'm just saying,
language
every
of
other
that on
A&R
it.
we've ever done
Okay.
has had
It's a
that language.
provision the state
Yeah.
encourages a lot of the time.
Okay. All right, so we will note on the plan before it's signed off on, if that's all right with you.
Fine with it.
Okay. Kristen, you got the language on that?
Confirmation of zoning,
That it's a,
Conformance with
compliance,
zoning.
yeah, conformance with
regulations,
zoning.
Something like
well, it's conformance with zoning. It may not be conformance as a building lot. So, I mean, we're not endorsing the fact that it's a building lot.
Right.
I mean, that's what.
But it's
the
not going to be a
thing is.
building lot unless it conforms to zoning.
Well, right, yeah. But it could conform to zoning for other reasons than a building lot. So that's
Right.
what I'm saying is that.
But we're not confirming or denying.
Well, no,
that.
it either conforms or it doesn't conform, right? If it doesn't conform, then it's not a building lot. But it can't conform to zoning for other reasons, like there's only one frontage requirement. So it either,
Kept as open space, yeah. All right,
well, even if it's
Yeah.
kept as open space, it would either be a legal non-conforming lot or a conforming, or a non-conforming lot, illegal. But
Kristen, maybe you could check on preceding A&Rs and see how they were endorsed by us, and we'll use the same language that we've used on other
Do we need a motion?
yeah.
All right, I move that the planning board, sorry, Pete. Sorry.
It's
that's
all
your
you.
thing. Nope, you go.
It's all you do.
Sorry, you just jump in.
John?
John,
All
continue.
right. I move that the planning board endorse the A&R for 6 Denny Street with the provision handwritten on as we've discussed, how we've done it in the past.
I'll second that.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Okay. We will have Jenny take a look at this. You'll note our town planner's not here tonight, she's away, so we'll have her just review that and make sure the appropriate language is on there when she gets back. She'll be back next week.
Okay, then is it a Mylar set of plans that you need after that for signature on, or is it just a regular plan that?
Not in here?
It must be,
Yeah,
whatever.
there's one in here, so she'll sign this.
Because she can sign on our behalf, we no longer have to sign individually on each of these. I think we made the decision that Jenny could sign these on our behalf.
Through the chair, we don't have to, every time, vote to allow Jenny to do it. Every time we
Right, no.
vote, it's
I
automatically
think we,
allowed for her. Okay.
made that accordingly. All right, the second matter is a public hearing for site plan review, application for 80 Turnpike Road. And since we are opening a new public hearing, I will have to read the notice into the record. In accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 40A, Sections 9 and 11, and Section 3.1 of the zoning bylaws of the town of Westborough, the Westborough Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, June 18, at 6:30 p.m. on application record number 24-01842, requesting a full site plan review to retrofit the existing building to an auto mechanical repair facility within the existing structure and include office and storage and parts storage at 80 Turnpike Road, parcel 35-8-0, Westborough, Mass., located in the Highway Business BA zoning district. The proposed project consists of additional interior demolition, modifications to include auto lifts and equipment installation, and install 2 large doors for vehicle access into the building. The owner of the property is Bornbaum Associates, LLC. The applicant is WDA Design Group on behalf of Albrecht Auto Group. The public hearing will be held in the Great Hall of the Forbes Municipal Building, 45 West Main Street, Westborough, Mass. Please see the calendar on the Town of Westborough homepage, posted 48 hours prior to the public hearing for additional information. To access the application and any submitted documents, please go to our online permitting system, Permit Pro, and with the website https://westborough.permitpro.com, and search the above referenced record number. Records are also available for review in the Westborough Planning Board office at 45 West Main Street, Westborough, Mass. During regular business hours. Persons unable to attend may submit comments in writing to the Westborough Planning Board in advance of the public hearing. Good evening. If you could just introduce yourself for the record.
Thank you. Marshall Gould, attorney representing the applicant, and with me to my far right, I have George Albrecht from Albrecht Auto Group, and right next to me, we have Anthony Carboni, who is the general manager of the Westborough facility. And what I'd like to do, with your permission, is have Anthony just briefly describe who the company is. They're relatively new to Westborough, although they currently occupy both 82 and 84 Turnpike Road. And Anthony can give you some information so you'll understand who they are.
Great, that would be perfect.
Thank
Why
you.
don't you go ahead, Anthony? I see we've got a map up there for people to look at, which is a great help, so that will.
Perfect. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it tremendously. We are the youngest of the youngest store in the Albrecht Group. We purchased the business located at 82 and 84 Turnpike Road, July 10th last year. And among this store, we also have 2 Nissan stores, 2 Infiniti stores, a GMC store, and a Woburn Toyota, which you've probably seen off of 95, right after the Showcase Cinema. We're a family-run, owned and operated organization. And what we're looking to do is increase the service footprint of our dealership. We are sort of inundated with service, and we need more lifts to be able to service the surrounding area. And the building at 80 Turnpike provides an ideal location for that, with very limited impact to the surrounding area, no external construction. We're not going up, down, left, or right. We need 2 bays to be able to enter and exit the building appropriately and safely. And the majority of the demolition has actually already been done previously to remove the vast majority of the second floor. The existing space that's in there will be where the lifts go. It will not be, customers will not be driving around that lot. All the intake for all the customer vehicles will remain at 84 Turnpike Road, which is where all service customer intake is now, and vehicles will be valeted between the buildings as necessary for service work.
If I could just add as background on 80 Turnpike, we were before this board, within the last year and a half, it was going to be a granite fabrication and processing place. And I believe a few of you actually took a tour of the building and the site out there one day when a neighbor up on Hundreds Road was questioning the business and the noise coming possibly from the building. So I think many of you have seen the site and are familiar with it. So this is going to be new for automotive, but the Malegnis, who were going to be running the granite business, just to refresh your memory, they were going to take the rear portion of the second floor and remove it so that they would have height down on the first floor to go up. So they were going to do some of that, and then I believe they're now going to be using the upper floor still for general office and storage, and a conference room, a training room, and then the downstairs will, I believe you're also going to have an office downstairs, but almost all service work. Is that accurate?
It's all service work. The only office downstairs will be for service manager and dispatch.
Okay. So we have somebody from WDA has all the plans behind you, and Barry can walk you through the project. Barry, up to you.
Yes, sir. This is a colored rendering of the plan that's been submitted to you. Out here on this side here is Route 9. Everything that's colored in green, representing grass, is what we plan on remaining as grass. The brown areas are current bark mulch areas. They will remain as bark mulch areas. The intention is to add a new door to enter the building in this vicinity. Under Stone Inc., they were approved to put a central door to access and bring in stone in here. We're just going to slide it over to get better access to the building. And then to provide an in and out ability, a second door in this vicinity will be installed with a ramp down into the parking and then join into the rest of their area. That, with the exception of just a little bit of modification up at the front entrance to add some parking, handicap, and just clean that area. It's kind of tough with some extra concrete there. Would be the only exterior work, along with tying in an oil water separator to the existing septic system or connection to the sewer system. Very little exterior changes. I think we are, compared to prior, is only losing 4 spaces in total, 2 here, 2 there. Our intention is to turn these front spaces into inventory, as well as some additional inventory that is shared among agreements over on this side currently are in place. Under the Stone Inc., they had removed roughly where this dashed line representing, they had taken the second floor out so they could bring in and do their manufacturing. Under the modification to the service auto, a little bit more of this area is planned to be removed, but in general, this line here will stay there. And then just for an interior look, represent myself. So this would be the side door. 82 would be to the top side, enter in, got a couple service bays along in here, and then be able to exit out the building, out the back. And everything from down above here and over this area will remain as a second floor. And again, down here is the door. Enter in and enter out. '84 is down here as their intake. 82 with some more service and inventory, and then the proposed plan is to move a few of their bays into here and provide this as their loan service. The intention is not to have any customers, as he mentioned, in this area. There is access and easement all the way through that has to be maintained. There is a pilot flag sign that will remain. I'm not quite sure what will be put on that.
It'll be known that it's a service facility for us, but not for customers. On the sign, we'll make that clear. Try to avoid as much through traffic as possible and mistakes.
So with that, unless you have something else, Marshall, that I missed?
You want to just go over the number of parking spaces that you have? I didn't hear you giving the number.
There's 45 that generally was required, but I believe we have 71 on the site. That includes the additional allowed. We're making the spaces up on the top with inventory. We can make the spaces a little bit smaller, so they should be able to fit about 71 cars on the lot. So we have enough for the business to run as a business, plus some spares.
Is there still a open issue on the sewer allocation? Maybe you could address that.
There is. Actually, Barry has been trying to meet with Lisa, the town engineer, on an oil-water separator. Has she signed off on that yet, Barry?
Not yet. We're working through the initial moratorium
Okay.
issues at the moment.
And she came back and she gave us some surprising news. Now, this building was built, we think, in the 90s.
Somewhere in
And
94.
it has been continuously used up until the last year where it's been open. But they had no certainty that it was using water or sewer. And it clearly has been. And so Lisa was not willing to sign off because they could not find the records of, I guess, being connected to and actually using
I think
sewer
the
there.
definition is the records of a permitted flow.
Right. So we were told to present Chris Payan with a request for a waiver to move forward, which we did, but Chris is away until this Thursday, I think.
Yep.
He is due back. And so obviously we don't have an answer yet.
Okay.
So we understand that we're going to be put forward and that you're not going to have the meeting the first week of July. We were told by Jenny it would probably be July 16th, I believe she said.
Yeah,
But we wanted to do the presentation so that if you had any questions, the site is already built and developed. So on the outside, there's not going to be new paving. There may be new striping, but obviously we have to show you where inventory is going to go and where regular parking spaces will be for customers and employees. When I say customer, customers' cars, and for the employees. There could be anywhere from 17 to 20 employees at this building at a time, and that's all on the plan. There's more than enough parking, close to 20 more spaces than are actually required. So I'm not trying to say that you need to find this, but from our perspective, the site looks pretty easy. It's already developed. As Barry said, the buildings around them have certain rights of way. As you can see, south of Route 9 behind this building, there are some buildings that have rights of way. And the building where, what was it, the bicycle?
Landry's bicycle.
Bicycle, they have rights of way, so there won't be any blocking of the space between the buildings, but there's also not going to be any major new structures put outside, so it's going to be largely like the site is now. So other than showing you the spaces directly adjacent to Route 9, where there will be new vehicles for display, the rest of the site is all going to be related to service.
Hazel, I have a question.
I was just going to say,
Yeah,
questions, John?
just a couple. Is this a lease or you guys purchasing this from?
Purchase.
Okay. And so what you're saying is that there's currently allocation for the building. We
Yes,
just
but
don't
the-
know what
But
it
the
is.
town can find it.
Doesn't have records of.
Whatever the water sewer use that we will
Yeah.
use at that building will be substantially less than the two-story office building that preceded it. With the number of employees, I'd be surprised if it used.
And would it, I mean, I'm no expert, but would it be less than what the granite use would be there?
Substantially less.
Because they need water to the way they cut the stone, is my understanding.
Yeah.
Not in that business either.
There'll be no,
Well, that's what I figured though.
yeah, there'll be no car wash in that building. That building will not be used for reconditioning cars. That process exists currently in 82 and will remain there. So there will be no car wash put into 80 Turnpike. There's no plans of washing cars there. We don't intend to.
It would just be the basic bathroom use of 17 or so people working there.
I mean, you guys have a lot of dealerships and service centers. Do you have an idea of what the allocation would have to be for this to work for you?
They do. At the service work now with, what did you call it, refurbish, or it's washing?
reconditioning.
So they use much more water, and that's at 82, and they're within their allocation.
Well within,
And
actually.
at
substantially less.
84, it's a bigger building, bigger parking lot, and that's where most of the customers go. So most of the allocation on these buildings will be at 82 because of the washing, and a lot more customers in addition to employees at 84. So the one at 80 is going to be less than what there used to be when it was 28,000 square feet of office space. And for a while, there was a school in there as well, and it's going to be quite a bit less than that. One of the issues that Barry brought up that we have to make sure that Chris and Lisa and the board understand, DEP has some strange regulations for the requirements of what they call a bay. And the number they come up with is ridiculously high, because they look at what their uses are on both 82 and 84, and it's not even close to that. And 82 is where they're going to use probably at least 5 times more water than they would use at 80. So we need to work that out with Chris, but if they just give us the same or less allocation as when it was 28,000 square feet of office, we would be very happy.
So we could potentially give you the allocation of what you need, and it could be less than what.
Was there formerly.
Yeah, and would that be, and that could work for
And
you,
that would add to the allocation for the rest of the town.
which I think would work.
Let me just move through here, please.
Well,
That's it, but that's all the questions I have.
I have a question, but I can wait.
All right, go ahead, Mark.
yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that. You said you're moving your repair operation from the other building into this building?
Not moving, I'm adding.
Adding, okay. All right, so you're not actually doing water oil separation in the other building right now?
I am doing, or there's oil water separators at both buildings currently. They're already in place. We'd be adding one to 80.
Got it, okay. I did have another. Could you go back to the, I didn't see in our package the building layout. Could you bring that back up?
Sure.
And bring up the service area, Barry.
Yep.
So those are the so-called bays that you see there.
Route 9 would be to the right of this plan.
Front out here is Route 9.
Okay,
This is the back.
Yeah,
This is the entrance in.
no entrances from the back? I thought you had said
There's one entrance or exit, proposed exit out here in the back. So you come in through the center and then out the back.
I know in the last one, we had asked for some soundproofing or insulation on the back of the building for the benefit of the neighbors.
Sure.
I think that,
So
without a neighbor here, maybe during the public comment, I'm just worried about like headlights leaving the service bays at night in the winter. Are they gonna be I think the buildings are pretty elevated behind there, and
The building is really low compared to residential houses
Say
that
the
are up on Hundreds
residential
Road
housing
way
is
up.
way up above.
Yeah. I would be more concerned, like, is it going to be air conditioned?
yes.
Okay, so they might keep the bays closed during the summer, so that's going to keep the sound in. It's not going to be open during the winter.
Doors we would use would be high-speed insulated doors as well, so they'd be up and down in a matter of seconds, not manually operated.
I'm assuming it won't be any louder than granite cutting.
No.
So
Quieter.
Significantly quieter, yeah.
I just know that that was one of the biggest concerns of the abutters.
There was a neighbor up on Hundreds, and somebody's told me, someone who lives up there said that he has sold his house and moved away. But the point was well taken, and when you're cutting granite, it's very loud.
Okay,
Are the hours of operation the same as the other two buildings?
Yes.
Any consideration for rooftop solar or electric vehicle parking?
So we actually have plans in place to add electric vehicle parking for both buildings. We have some at 84 currently. We have 2 spaces currently at 82. We have plans and an executed agreement to add level 3 charging stations to the 82 building currently. That will be largely unnecessary for the 80 building since it'll be only for service work.
None of your workers might drive electric vehicles?
Say again?
None of your workers might drive electric vehicles?
We actually do have a couple that do, and they use the ones at 82.
Okay. And any consideration for rooftop solar or any other kind of renewable energy sources for the operation?
Personally, I'm certainly not against it. We have it currently at 82 and 84, and we're absolutely open to it on 80. For the purpose of the site plan review, we didn't really put it into consideration.
Okay. And then I guess final question, you got the extra parking that you don't need. I'm sure you'll find a use for it, but any consideration for taking that away and just returning it to like landscaped area?
The reason we can't do that, John, is you saw from an earlier plan that there were buildings in the back that have the rights, and those people occasionally use the parking here because those buildings were old enough that they didn't necessarily have enough parking for what's there now. So if you go back to the site plan, Barry, if you would,
The area,
not that one, the aerial, please. So you can see the buildings that are down at the bottom, and to the right of those buildings, you'll see that there are an awful lot of vehicles parked there, and the black lines that you see across the site, those are the property lines. So without 80 being used, you can see that some people are already parking in the back of number 80.
So it looks like some of the parking that's being used for 82
Yep.
is technically your parking?
That's been under an agreement since it was not even sold to Mark Malegny yet.
We currently lease that space to, well, are you referring to
In between
to the
80 and
east of 82 or south?
So to the east of 80. So it looks like.
Up a little
some
higher.
Tandem parking on.
There you go.
Yes, so that space is currently under lease between us and Born Associates, so we can put those cars there.
But that's, I'm guessing a lot of those spaces are technically for 80.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
And those are some that we won't need for the use, but we actually talked about that. It's going to be hard to remove spaces
Yeah,
there.
no, that's fair. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of,
Use.
We want to be good neighbors and not suddenly
Right.
tell the other people they can't use it.
Realistically, how many cars can you have in the building at one time to actually do the work that you need to do? Or how, is it
11.
11? So it's not going to be much traffic if it's 11. And how long does it usually take you to accomplish a job?
Depends on the scope of the job, but you figure average. For the purpose of this, I guess it would be important to explain why that building is necessary. So at 84 Turnpike, we do, that building is now dedicated strictly to express work. So that's oil change, filters, wiper blades, things like that that are in and out in an hour or less.
That's the property that's just west of Long Meadow Road.
Oh, okay.
Currently, what we refer to as flat rate work, which is the more highly skilled, more in-depth work that's performed, is all done at 82 Turnpike Road. That will, 80 will be in addition to 82, because there's a lot more of that kind of work that, you know, vehicles can sit occasionally, depending on the scope of the work, for 2-3 days on a lift as parts come in, or a job can take 16 man-hours to complete. So that's the necessity for that structure. Get customers' cars out, quite honestly, faster, back to them.
Yeah, and so the traffic on that site's going to be very minimal.
Yeah.
Based on that.
Actually, the only traffic is going to be from us driving cars.
Of course,
from one.
yeah,
Oh,
but that's even minimal as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will there be any facade improvements to the building?
Other than sort of correcting the broken glass and doors that are there already, I don't foresee any facade improvements necessarily. It's not really necessary for the purpose of the building.
Okay.
But where the new doors are going, obviously it's going to look better
Yeah.
at the entrance and the exit doors. And the front almost looks like an office building when you walk in anyway. I think you were there the day that we did the walkthrough.
We did, yeah, I was, yeah.
Yeah, and I know that Mark was, and Peter, I think you might have been there also. No? Okay.
I was just curious if you're trying to match the aesthetics of the other buildings, but understand it's not necessary, as it's not really, it's not for clients, customers.
Correct.
So. Okay.
When we do 82, we would probably do that at that point. Some of the external elevations are in pretty bad shape, so they will have to be cleaned up, and we'll certainly pretty it up for sure. But
Thank you.
Are there any more questions from the board? Are there any questions from anybody in the audience on this matter? Could I have a motion? I think obviously since we have some unanswered questions on septic, some of the things we would continue this until July 16th. Is
I
that
move-
correct?
Okay. I move that the planning board continue the hearing for 80 Turnpike Road until July 16th, 2024 hearing date.
second.
Are there any further additions? Ready to vote? All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thanks very
Good
much.
luck on your project. Cool. I would like to skip ahead to item 4 and 5 and come back and do 3 at the end, if that's all right, because I think we've got 2 that are fairly quickly, and the 18 Lyman and 1830 Lyman Street may take a while. So it just seems fair work through on that. So is there someone here for 165 Flanders Road? This is a matter that we've had on our docket for months, and we have requested that the applicant, Cumberland Farms, come in and kind of review it for us again and give us an update since they have requested. Looks like we will need a continuation to our next meeting anyway.
Do you want me here or there for the computer?
Wherever, if you're going to show something on wherever you can plug in and get on the screen.
I think, E&Z.
That's gotta be over there.
Sorry, I'm just a little bit unprepared. I wasn't
Okay.
expecting to be skipped ahead. Okay, well, I'm Andrew Platt from Bowler Engineering. I'm here with attorney Mark Donahue tonight on behalf of EGA America for their site at 165 Flanders Road. And I apologize for all the continuances. I realized it was frustrating to the board, but we've been working out issues with the Conservation Commission, and that's been ongoing for over a year now. So that's the reason for the continuances. We're working towards the end of that. I believe we're really close to the end. We're waiting for one more peer review to come back. So as you said, there's probably going to be one more continuance next month. But after that, we should be good to go. We've been asked to provide a brief overview of the project as a reminder
Yes, please.
of what we're doing. So on this rendering here, I'm sure we're all familiar with the Cumberland Farms or EGA America site, but it's located at the intersection of Route 495 and the Mass Turnpike. We've got the large existing building, the largest building on the site there. And what we're proposing are two new buildings. One would be a 50,000 square foot warehouse building over towards Route 495. And the other is a 17,600 square foot maintenance building, which will replace an existing building that's there. This will have, I think it's 5 bays, including one wash bay for trucks. There's a couple new parking spaces over here. And we're reworking this parking area to the west of the existing building. This area will still basically be the same as it is with existing parking, trailer truck parking. There's also a fuel station right here. I'm going to flip to a more detailed plan. Okay, oops, sorry. And this is the more detailed plan of that maintenance building area. So you can see the building there, the parking spaces, the fueling station, the truck parking. And this has all been before the board before. There's been no changes since the original proposal. And then going over to the warehouse area, that also hasn't changed significantly. We're still showing a 50,000 square foot building with 17 parking spaces up in front of the building, 42 truck spaces throughout the perimeter there, including ADA spaces, and access is where it was originally proposed from the main access, the driveway that connects to Flanders Road. Again, this hasn't changed too much. I think maybe a couple of the radiuses on the curves have changed. We may have changed by a parking space or one or two. The net gain is still 35 spaces for between the two projects. And that's more or less what we're doing. As I said, nothing has changed other than the drainage. So the one thing that's different on this plan than what was originally proposed is this drainage basin to the rear. That's an addition. And there's also a new basin over here on the right-hand side of the page. And that's just based on working with the Conservation Commission and the peer review to address their stormwater concerns. If I go back to the rendering, you can see the original proposal, in which case there was an expansion of the existing basin that was proposed here, where the red writing is, right about here. And what we did, oops, sorry about that. Sorry, Tony, a little bit hard without the mouse on this trackpad. Well, all we did was just move the expansion of the basin, because that was really the main issue with the Conservation Commission. They didn't want to reuse the existing basin and expand it. So all we did was just add another detention basin over to the left of that. Basically where my cursor is right now. There's just a new detention basin there. There's also an open or underground detention basin behind the building too that was added just to address stormwater volume concerns. So really there haven't been any changes to the layout, just stormwater changes to address Conservation Commission comments.
And you'll have that complete, you figure, by our next meeting?
how complete we are.
You'll have that completed by our
Oh.
next meeting?
We hope so, yeah. We were just before the commission last week. Unfortunately, the chairman wasn't there, but everyone seemed to be more or less okay with what we were proposing. So yeah, we hope to have everything wrapped up. Like I said, there's still a peer review ongoing. That typically has taken 2 months per peer review. This is our 4th one, which accounts for 8 of the months that we've been delayed. So like I said, we're probably not ready next month, but the month after, we should have some sort of decision from the Conservation Commission.
Are there any questions from any members of the board? This applicant?
Yeah, I have one.
Here you go.
The new warehouse, is that just pure storage?
Yep.
Dry storage?
Yep, dry storage. My understanding is that it's for equipment for other stores, like coffee machines, food equipment, stuff like that, just materials for other stores.
Should we continue it to the August meeting date then, or is that what you're suggesting?
It's up to you. I don't know. Yeah, I think August is probably safe.
You think August? All right.
There's no point to put in July if.
Yeah, if they're not going to be finished. Yeah. All right. Are there any other questions from the board on this matter? Is there anyone here from the audience who'd like to comment on this project? If not, could I have a motion to continue this matter to August? What dates have we picked out in August? Have we picked out? I think we're going to try to get maybe one meeting in the middle of the month, weren't we?
That was in July, and then
Right,
August.
but-
The first Tuesday is the 6th.
So I'll do the 6th.
Okay.
Okay. I move that the planning board continue the hearing for 165 Flanders Road until August 6, 2024 hearing date.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? All right, we'll see you in August.
Okay, thank you.
Kristen, I can't vote on that one, right?
Right. All right, we also have a continuation for public hearing for site plan application at 101, 105 Flanders Road. Is there anyone here on that matter? If not, I know that, did they make a formal application, Kristen, to adjourn that?
For 105 Flanders?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in your,
Oh, they did, okay. So there's been a request, so that would be continued to August 6th, was it 6th or 8th?
yep,
Okay. Okay.
6th.
Or July 16th
Yeah, I
is
think
what
we're on
they're.
July
All right, we'll try July 16th. Okay.
Yep.
Could I have a motion to continue this
Yes.
matter till July 16th?
I move that the planning board continue the hearing for 101, 105 Flanders Road until July 16, 2024 hearing date.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just one comment before we vote. I think the problem, from my understanding, is conservation needs to do some reflagging for the driveway, and that's the reason there's been a delay on this. We ready to vote? All in favor? Thank you. That matter's continued to the 16th of July. And finally, a continuation of the public hearing for special permit site plan review application of 18 and 30 Lyman Street. Mr. Donahue?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, for the record, Mark Donahue, Fletcher Tilton, on behalf of the applicant, Colangelo, Massachusetts Real Estate LLC. We have made material progress since we were here last. We have exchanged peer review letters with Ty and Bond and have what I would consider a closeout of third-party review on both traffic and civil engineering. The remaining comments are reduced to 2 separate memorandum, which have been filed from the town engineer. One with regard to traffic peer review with suggestions of conditions of approval, which I know have been incorporated into the draft conditions in your memorandum. And the second, a memo of June 11th with a series of recommended changes to some of the details in civil engineering, which also is referred to in its entirety in the draft conditions of approval. So those issues are resolved. We have had, we had discussed at the last meeting and have discussed throughout the hearing the desire to go from 20% affordable to 25%. I'm pleased to report that the Affordable Housing Trust has made a significant subsidy toward achieving that goal, and with that, the applicant is prepared to go to the 25% affordable with a local preference for Westborough residents and folks who work in businesses located in Westborough, with a specific preference for veterans who meet also those qualifications. We are, obviously, the entire development team is here, prepared to answer any questions you or the public may have with regard to any open items with regard to the application.
All right, and I know the town planner prepared a possible motion on this matter, and that you had a chance to review this and made some comments.
We did. We provided some minor comments, and I think you have now the most recent, which incorporates our changes. That's correct.
Have everyone had a chance to actually review those, out of curiosity?
Skim them.
Okay. No. All right. Are there any questions for the board? I mean, I know it seems to me that at this point you've done your due diligence. We've heard from most of the departments on this, and hopefully we'll be ready to wrap this matter up tonight. But that will depend on questions from the board if there are any raising issues. John, you got any questions?
Yeah, just two. So throughout this process, I've asked if the applicant is willing to do any additional facade improvements for the rest of the development, and I was told that that was something that they were looking into. Has there been any conclusion as to what they're going to do with that?
I'm pretty sure that we submitted via Permit Pro a rendering. Perhaps we...
Good evening. Brittany Gessner, civil engineer with the project. The revised plans that we submitted to the town on Monday include revised architectural plans, which do depict the facade changes. I can pull them up if you would like to see.
Could you?
Yes.
Would that be okay? I apologize, but I haven't seen them.
No, I haven't either.
Yeah.
Yeah, so can I make a comment?
Yeah?
So I'm a little uncomfortable moving everything forward tonight, only because, well, not only because, but one of the reasons I'm uncomfortable is that we have a rule that all documents should be provided to the board on the Thursday before the meeting. And I'm looking at Permit Pro, and there were, 4 documents posted. I don't know when they were submitted to the planning department, but posted for us to view on Friday, and 1 posted for us to view today that I just skimmed through, that I really has to do with the affordability component. So I'm a little frustrated by that. I also have some questions for the town planner that she's not here to answer. So as much as I want to move this forward for you, I'm a little reluctant to vote on these conditions tonight.
Can I just ask what the questions are for Jenny?
Well, I didn't want to interrupt the presentation. I mean, I can go through all my questions, or we can answer John's question first about the facade.
All right,
Yeah.
why don't we look at the facade first, and then I think, Mark, if you have questions, the rest of the board would like to know what they are, and I think they should be raised, so we will open it then to comments from the members of the board. Okay.
For the record, my name is David Berryman. I'm the principal architect from Newberry Design Associates. And these, as you can see, are the proposed changes to the remainder of the existing canopy that wraps around from the new building all the way around to the J&N building. Right now, it's a stucco/ephes facade on the canopy, so that would be taken off, and we would reface it with basically the same siding materials that we'll be using on the main building, and that'll wrap all the way around. Heights, as you can see in the different colors, will kind of remain the same, and we'll carry that all the way around.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
All right, Mark, if you have some, sorry,
yeah,
John,
just-
you had a second question.
Yeah, just the second one was, and again, I apologize for not knowing this, but the whole sewer, was the allocation, was that all worked out with the town?
We had a meeting with the DPW director and the town engineer on Friday. We reached an agreement in principle, which would permit all of the bedrooms reflected in the application to be serviced by sewer.
Can I ask a follow-up? So, again, we don't have someone from engineering here to ask this, so I'm going to ask you. Right now, you have some vacancies in the project. Are you using sewer allocation for the commercial units for these? In other words, are you going to just leave some, are you robbing Peter to pay Paul?
We're not robbing Peter, we're taking from the cadaver of what had been the second floor of the J&N building, the office allocation of that in gallonage, and trading that into bedrooms in some fashion. The vacant spaces in the commercial parts of the plaza continue to have availability for what their present use was. Part of our agreement in principle is to work with engineering and DPW to get essentially a good and clean determination as to all of those particular uses, so there's no question. So all the vacancies can be used for what they were used for previously. If there's a vacancy in which is an expansion, that would need an application for new allotment of sewer.
Okay, I think that answers my question. I just don't want to see units left vacant in order to provide allocation for these residential units. And as long as you have sufficient flow to accommodate full occupancy.
The
which I think
only
you
thing
would-
we've done with regard to the commercial, I guess, is lose a little bit of flex or capacity because we had additional units that hadn't been used, which are being allocated toward the bedrooms. So we'll just have to make an application if we have a use that requires more.
I think the owner's goal would be full occupancy, and I just want to make sure that there's no obstacle to that.
Absolutely, thank you.
And we do have in our packet a memorandum to Jenny from the town engineer, which you probably have seen in discussing these matters. That's dated June 11th. That was in our file. John, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I guess the only question I have at the moment is, and this relates to the traffic or circulation really, is we had talked about signage at the loading bays. What progress has been made on that? I haven't seen those details in the plan, and that's probably my fault, but if you could explain.
The signage that we presented at the last meeting has been incorporated into the plans, and we've also added a note about exploring signalization and a flashing warning sign that may be operated when trucks may be loading in and out.
And that's at the rear of the building.
Correct. That hasn't been fully detailed and designed, but that would be included in the plans prior to building permit. But there is a note on the plan saying that that should be incorporated into the design.
And is there any kind of deadline or anything incorporated into that note, or is it just going to be like, hey, we should do this, but then we'll never get around to doing it, or is there like...
No, as part of when we finalize the plans for building permit, it'll be incorporated in there.
The note or the flashing?
The note is already on the plans.
Okay.
The design, the specific design for the signal.
Got it, okay.
Yes.
No, I understand, sorry, that was...
Sorry,
that was
I probably
my
wasn't
misunderstanding.
clear.
No, I get it, okay, thank you.
Yeah, Hazel, I went through that letter, that memorandum from engineering, and I don't really see where it addresses that sewer agreement that we just discussed, so I'm not really,
Does it, the memorandum predated our meeting on Friday.
yeah, the
That memorandum
memorandum
is about the
that you're
peer review.
referencing on the
Right, but that
11th
was
had to do with
background, all
the
right.
tie and bond.
Yep.
So again, I just,
It's
this
a-
is all new news to me that you've come to this agreement, so I just wanted to get clear what that agreement is.
Can I just ask a question to Mark?
Yep.
Do we care? Like, if they're not going to get the allocation from DPW, they're not going to be able to build it, right? That's going to be their problem to solve. So like, is it something that we necessarily care about, since it's not under our jurisdiction? I mean, we care about it, right? But is it something that we can even decide?
I care about it being a successful project.
No, I agree. I'm just saying, if they're confident that they're gonna get it, that's the risk they're taking. And I'm not saying you're
don't
wrong.
disagree with that.
I'm just trying to
I just want to know what,
think it through.
I just want to know what the plan is.
Yeah.
All right, I mean, that's fine. I mean, there was a draft motion, and I think Jenny had reviewed this, so she was aware of that they had come to an agreement on this. But,
I'm
and
just
that's
not
fine, if you
I'm
want
just
to
not-
wait,
I'm
we
just
can
not
do that.
Clear, you know, if we grant the permit, does that
Put pressure on DPW to issue an allocation.
force DPW to provide them out?
How would it?
I don't know.
It wouldn't.
I don't see how it would. And I guess that's my point, is like,
Yeah.
our decision is on the site plan.
Not on the
DPW's
sewer.
decision is the allocation, and I'm sure they don't take into account.
Point well taken. It's-
No, I'm just trying to have the
I
discussion.
have faith in DPW to, you know, to resolve this with the owner. I don't think we need to get in the middle of it. It's not our jurisdiction. Sewer flow is directly under DPW's jurisdiction, not ours, right? So I agree with that.
Just for a color for
Yeah.
Mr. Silverberg, the meeting was left, as I said, an agreement in principle that was basically a one-page sheet of some number calculations and costs, and also with some additional commitments by the applicant, such as determining the flows in the commercial, an I&I study required, contribution to I&I to the town and the like. The end result of the meeting was, as I said, an agreement in principle, with the charge basically now reduce it to a complete agreement of the parties, so there's no confusion. So that will be coming. We'll be working with town council in that regard.
Yeah, well, it would have to be, so consequently, I think that the motion that we have really is based on the fact that an agreement will be made between you and town council as the appropriate documents which you need to carry for, to move forward. Mark, you said you had other questions.
Yeah, so one of it had to do with the affordable housing requirement and the subsidy, which that letter was just provided to us today. I don't know if everybody else has read that. It looks like the town's providing a substantial subsidy to encourage you to go from 20 to 25%, with the understanding that all 132 units will be given credit on the town subsidized housing inventory because they'll be rentals. I'm concerned what happens in a year if the owner decides to go convert this building to condominium. And we are back to, instead of 132, we've now subsidized this project for 5% increase in the zoning minimum. Not to mention, my understanding is the variance that was granted required 25%. So, you know, I'm just a little confused by that whole, like, is there some type of provision that we could put in that says the properties will remain rental for a certain period of time, so that we don't all of a sudden see these turn condo and have the rug pulled out from under us?
We can certainly talk about what that period of time would be. The Affordable Housing Trust memo, and just to put this in context, this was a memo provided to us that was a follow-up of conversation we had with a task force of the Affordable Housing Trust. It wasn't until either on Friday, or I believe actually it may have been on Monday, that the trust itself as a body voted to approve it. And so it wasn't submitted prior to that because it wasn't basically effective until that time. It refers to the potential of conversion from rental units to ownership, and it refers to the need to have affordable housing units at 80% AMI in perpetuity. And there's also requirements for borrowing those from subletting or any short-term rentals.
So that memo is a memorandum of understanding, or is it just a
It is a memo that was provided to us as a response to a discussion we had as a proposal. We indicated upon receipt and consideration that it would be acceptable to us. And I said, as I indicated, the trust did it. We talked in our meeting of the need for a subsidy agreement because we'll need to demonstrate the binding commitment of the trust in order for lenders and investors to show the money's there. So that's another document that needs to be drafted now.
And that subsidy agreement will have the condition that any units converted to condominiums will have to do a certain.
Correct. The memorandum you have suggests a number of conditions that they would expect to have in that agreement, all of which are acceptable to the
Yeah,
applicant.
so you understand that if it's a rental project, they can apply to, I don't even know what DHCD is called now,
OHLC.
EOA. And John, I know you understand that if it's a rental project, we could feasibly have all 132 units count towards our subsidized housing. But if it's an owner-occupied project, it's only the 33 units that would have deed riders on it, right? That's a big difference, right? And I don't know is everybody here aware of how much that subsidy is? You don't even know how much the subsidy is. It's $750,000, right, of the town's money. And again, I'm supportive of that because I think, A, the Affordable Housing Trust is doing a great job. B, I want to encourage this owner to include the local preference, the affordable housing, and I want those units on the SHI. My concern is primarily around the fact that in a year, the owner could decide to turn this building condo, and we'd be down from the 132 to 33 units on our SH. And that seems like a lot of money to subsidize.
It is.
For only 1 year.
But that was getting to my question of, is there any kind of agreement with that subsidy, which the memorandum that he's talking about is going to be they mentioned an agreement for the subsidy that will have conditions that will address that situation. Because I agree with you, I think that's a concern, and so if we're giving them that
I don't have anyone here to ask those questions, right? I have Mark here, but I don't have anybody from the Affordable Housing Trust to say, are you going to require a time frame before this can be reverted from rental to?
We don't have the agreement to look at.
Right, I don't have any of these questions.
What was your agreement? I assume you discussed this with the Affordable Housing Trust?
We discussed it in a glancing fashion. I think we've been abundantly clear that the applicant has no intention to sell. There is the practical component that trying to create a condominium inside of a commercial development would be a fairly complex matter.
Right.
The rub is this, we are going to capital markets at a time in which capital markets are somewhat cold as to this housing type. And it could be a concern, I'm not saying it is a concern, but it could be a concern of a lender who's providing the construction financing that such a condition takes them out of an option if there were to be a default. And so that would be our concern. It's of no concern to the Colangelos because they don't intend to do it. But, they can't, it's the law of unintended consequences as to what a lender would think in lending the money when they now have to operate this apartment complex within the Colangelos development that they wouldn't necessarily have an interest in, so.
So a time limit on that might solve that problem as far as the lender went, if they have no.
Frankly, the time limits, the construction lender's concern is going to be the front end while they have it constructed. Once it's reached stabilization, it becomes kind of an academic concern because it's already achieved a stabilization. Once it's rented up, nobody's going to convert it then.
Mark, did you have other questions?
Let me run through my notes. So on the B-Walt construction, we had a letter from the Active Transportation and Safety.
Which was exactly the same letter that was presented to us prior to that time.
Again, I think we should discuss it as a board because we're basically going against their recommendation if we approve this concept, and I don't agree with many of the things in the letter. I do wonder if the 13-foot wide travel lanes could be reduced in order to make the side path wider.
Mark, and I mean, in following up, we didn't get that letter until Friday, so that letter was not presented in time either, so.
I agree with that.
You have to.
That was another one of
you
my
have to make a
criticisms, is that
decision
we got
as to-
multiple documents.
Or if they haven't been presented, then we should not be discussing them tonight.
Okay, we shouldn't be discussing them tonight, but that was my my reluctance to vote on
All right.
on this tonight. It came from. So
I just think we need to have the plan for the next meeting to have the proper departments here to answer any questions that we may have, so nothing's outstanding.
I agree, or at least have, these, some type of written response from, like, I'd like to see how the applicant's engineer responds to these recommendations by the traffic and safety. I mean, some of them may just be opinion as opposed to fact and easily refutable. There may be a valid reason why the travel lanes need to be at 13 feet. I don't know the answer to that.
I think
if I might,
you did give us some response on that,
So
did you not?
we were asked at the last
Right.
meeting to provide written responses, then to Mr. Burns' comments to you.
Yes.
And we provided two responses, one from Ms. Gesmer on behalf of VHB, and Vinod Kalakari, the traffic engineer, is here and glad to summarize why the 13-foot travel lane is appropriate and some standards for that. And I also submitted a response to Mr. Burns' letter as to why, from the applicant's viewpoint, the 13 feet is appropriate, particularly given the use of that way for delivery vehicles to the delivery portion for Stop and Shop. So if the board would like to hear from Mr. Kalakari as to why he believes it's important in a matter of safety, I'm glad to have him, respond to that right now. He's here.
Yeah, I just don't see that response in our packet.
It's in Permit Pro. We filed it probably 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a
3 weeks
while ago. It was not recent. You have to remember that these are responses to Don's letter, and the letter we received from on Friday from the Transportation Committee is exactly the same letter.
So
as the
I'm
one
in
that came
Permit,
from Don.
I'm in Permit Pro now, and I don't see it, but maybe I'm missing it.
I won't swear to anything anymore, but I'm pretty sure that we're loaded up.
Well, I see a letter dated May 16th addressed to Hazel.
That was after that. I thought there was some comments,
Yeah, Dawn's comments came in after that.
right, and I thought there was some comments in response that there may not have been, but I do remember.
All right, so again,
All right.
I think we should continue.
I'm reluctant to ignore a recommendation from a committee that this town has tasked with oversight on the BWALT without, rational discussion.
Would you like to hear from Mr. Kalakari on it?
Sure, that'd be good.
Yep.
It's up to the chair.
Absolutely.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Vinod Kalakiri, Transportation Planner with VHP. So one of the first things I do want to clarify is that, I keep hearing the references to 13-foot lanes, right? So that's not what's actually in the typical sections, the plan views that have been submitted. It's actually 12-foot lane plus a 1-foot shoulder. So you always need to have, when we're designing roadway sections, even if you were to go with 12 feet, I would want it to be 11-foot lane plus a 1-foot shoulder. And the shoulder space provides a lot of benefits. When you have overhangs on larger trucks with the mirrors sticking out, you don't want, two trucks traveling each other to have the mirrors hit each other. And that's the concern when you get to the narrower lanes and have 11-foot lanes with 1-foot shoulder, you're getting to a point where a large truck, if it's mostly passenger cars or even SUVs or small box trucks, that's not as much of a concern. But given that that driveway is the primary access for large trucks going to the Stop and Shop and some of the larger tenants, and those trucks are WB67s, WB62s, these are pretty large trucks. The concern with a narrow lane without shoulders would be that concern of having mirrors hit each other or vehicles driving really too close to comfort. So if we're talking about a 26-foot wide pavement, it would be two 12-foot lanes and 1 foot shoulder on either side. And the 1 foot shoulder on either side, it's always good to have a shoulder on the roadway, even though we have a shared use path. It's a lot of times it's for drainage. So if there's drainage flow, sheet flow that's running along the gutter line, you don't want to have that water actually in the travel lane. You'd want the water to be in the shoulder, so that if the flow doesn't go smoothly and there's freezing that happens in the winter, that the water doesn't freeze in the travel lane, and that it's actually limited to the shoulder width. So ideally you'd want to have wider shoulders, but at a minimum we'd want to go with a 1 foot shoulder. So again, from a practical operations point of view, I would strongly recommend consideration of 12-foot lanes plus 1 foot shoulder for that cross section, given the types of vehicles that would be using that roadway. I agree if you go into AASHTO or Mass DOT guidelines based on functional classifications of roads and various other criteria, it'll say, I mean, for this type of an application, there's probably not even a specific width recommended. But there are instances where you would go with 11-foot lanes, and that does make sense. But in this instance, given the type of vehicles that would be using it, my recommendation would be to go with 12-foot lanes.
Okay, again, I think there's a pretty long letter here. I don't really want to go through each point, but that makes sense to me.
Perhaps, Mr. Johnny, you could take a look at that letter again and kind of summarize, or your team could summarize answers to the particular questions that were raised. We don't seem to have anything that kind of covers it all.
Yeah, I mean,
And so maybe if you go ahead and if you could do that and get that to us within good time, at least a week prior to our next meeting, then we can take a look at that. And work from there. Just a minute, Mark.
Sorry.
And we can then review that in terms of the letter that came in from the Transportation Committee, which you probably may not have gotten a copy of because we did not get it till Friday.
We haven't seen it. We did provide in writing.
Yeah.
I believe mine was in a letter form addressed to the chair. I think VHB's response may have been in an email exchange with the planner, a fairly detailed response to that letter. We're glad to look at it.
Yeah, I thought you had done it also, but Mark seems to be concerned about this, and we can certainly take a look at it once more and just make sure that everybody understands what the answers were and to the BWAL comments. Mark, did you have something else?
Again, I think the specific design of that B-wall trail has not been done yet, so the concept plan, I'm comfortable with the concept plan. I'm comfortable with it being on the north side despite ATSC wanting it on the south side. I think the trade-off is going to save the town a lot of money, basically, to have it on the north side and have this applicant do it now, and that, I think, is worth some compromises on this. I see some disclaimers in there about, if the trail can be built, if CarMax gives permission for him to build it.
Yeah, but there have to be. I mean, there are situations where if CarMax refuses to give.
Hazel, can I finish?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm concerned what happens if those disclaimers are exercised. Do we just not build the trail, or is there another recourse that says, okay, they'll donate something towards the town building the trail at a later date. Right? Like, what if they say, come back to us and say, well, CarMax won't give us permission to build the trail right now? Are we just SOL? We're gonna have to spend the town's money on this later?
Well, if I might, through the chair, the CarMax requirement of approval is in the perpetual trail easement that CarMax granted to the town and is the facility that we're using to be able to make the improvements. If they say no to our plan, it is fair to assume they would say no to your plan, and therefore there won't be a trail through there. The easement that is recorded requires their approval to be reasonably approved, and one can certainly try to determine what constitutes reasonable based upon the circumstances. The reason why we have a fairly high degree of confidence as to the approval is CarMax has very little use, if none, frankly, of the area right now. And we're not making significant changes that would impede their use, much for the reasons Mr. Calicari just referred to, because even if in the future they were using it even for car transportation vehicles, they still have the roadway with the shoulder as proposed, which is going to work for a 56-foot tractor trailer.
I completely understand that, and I have a lot of faith in the applicant to make this happen. But if it doesn't happen,
If it doesn't happen, the B-Wall Trail's not going to go there because the town can't do it either. No one can do it without CarMax's approval.
my feeling is that if there is such a high degree of confidence that if for some reason the applicant doesn't build the trail, they should be willing to donate some money to the town to cover our costs for future trail construction.
Disappointed to hear of a substantive issue like that at this point.
Well, if you,
I
if
can't
you're
even,
so
I can't even
confident-
come
if
up
you're-
with a number to guess at.
No, but if you're so confident that the trail is going to be built, then why would that be an onerous condition?
Mark,
Even
I
I
think,
don't know what number of dollars we're talking about. I can't even tonight guess at a reasonable number that would equate to the cost of the work to do that, because I haven't asked anybody.
I mean, you're raising a question that, a brand-new thing. I mean, you know, we've been at this for a number of months now, and I think, quite frankly, throwing in something else
Well,
totally
when you say a
different
brand
than
new
this.
thing,
What is
we-
new? All of a sudden, you said, what
No,
happens
I just
if?
got these conditions, okay? And there
Yeah.
wasn't anything in there that says, I mean, to me, the way it's phrased is, well, we're going to try and build the trail, but if we don't, oh, well.
Oh, I don't, all right. That was not how I read it, but that's fine. Were there other questions you had?
No, I think those are the big ones. Actually, a couple of minor things. We had talked about fencing, construction fencing around the new building. I don't see anything in the conditions about that. Is that just assumed?
There was something in there about that, because I saw that the fencing had to be removed within a certain amount of time after construction completed. I
There's
thought I saw
a
something in there.
construction phase plan in the site plans that illustrates,
So the reference in the plan would be sufficient? We don't need to put it into the conditions of the permit?
it's part of the site plans.
No, again, I would ask Jenny these questions if she were here, but she's not, so. And then, same thing, you have a pedestrian access that we talked about that would connect the Tatnick end to the Art and Frame end, so that people can still walk from one to the other, and that's shown on the plans? Okay. Those
Anything
are
else, Mark?
I think that's it for now.
Can I
Sure.
ask two follow-up questions on two different subjects, one
Yep.
on the BWALT, one on affordable housing,
Yep.
that kind of relate to Mark's concerns. Condition 21, the construction of the portion of the BWALT trail shall be completed prior to the receipt of the final certificate of occupancy for the project. Does that give you any comfort, Mark, given that they're not going to get a final occupancy unless they construct that portion of the BWALT trail?
condition 21 on,
of the memo.
so I have a different,
So I mean, that, to me, that says
so
they
I
have
have,
to construct it.
so I'm looking at Mark's redlined
Those changes
version.
from the version. The one that
I
I
don't
put
have
in
the
your
most current.
packets is brand new.
This one is brand new?
Jenny
This is
had
the,
added
this is
some
the current
things.
one.
Yes, the
Got it.
one that was in your packet.
Okay.
The one that was in our packet, this,
Yes.
the one I got when I walked in, that I haven't read yet? Okay. Can I, all right, so let me look at that.
Well, if you haven't had a chance to review it, then
Well, I don't think many of us had a chance to review it since we just got it when we walked in.
This is a new version that has new conditions.
Yeah, we should continue it so we can read through all these conditions, because I don't feel comfortable moving forward with Jenny not here and me not reading through everything.
I mean, I've read two different versions of these conditions. The Jenny's memo that was sent to us, I guess, Monday, had a list of conditions. I reviewed those, and I reviewed the applicant's response to those and suggested changes to those. And now I have a third version that I just got 5 minutes before the meeting that I didn't even know was different than the two that I've already reviewed.
I think she just consolidated all of the,
that would be my guess, But since we haven't had a chance to review it, I think we definitely should then continue this to the next meeting, which is July 16th.
So,
And
sorry, the
you
other.
had a second
Yeah, the other question was on the affordable housing, and then I think Pete might have some questions. Where was it? So condition 31, and maybe this isn't so much a question, but condition 31 says that the applicant shall comply with all the conditions as set forth in the agreement, which is referenced as the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board's memo, because it's dated and titled the same. And then their memo doesn't speak to any payback or requirements should those units become condoized.
rental units.
And so I guess I'm a little torn on here because Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, they seem to know what they're doing, very, up on everything. And they put this letter together and said, we're fine with it. But then on the other hand, Mark's concerns are also relevant to me in that what happens if they change a year? Now we're giving them $750,000 for effectively nothing.
Well, 6 units.
Six extra units, right, but not the 132 units on the SHI. And I understand that that's,
So don't
not
get me wrong,
expected to
I think
happen, but
we're really, at the very least, we're gaining 33 affordable units, which I think the town needs, right?
right.
So I think that's a good thing.
Right, I'm
But
just-
I just want to understand, I want to hear from the
I think
Affordable Housing
that was my
Trust
next
on
point. Is I would like to get a response from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board as to why they didn't put any condition on conversion, and what their sentiment was, or what if they know information that we don't know that will kind of make that not relevant.
Perhaps it would be worthwhile to have someone come from the Affordable Housing Trust to our meeting next month. So if there are any questions that come up, in the meantime, we can ask Jenny to get an answer from them. But at the same time, I'd like to have someone here from the Affordable Housing Trust. So if there are further questions, they can be taken up.
Certainly, if that's what the board wants, then this board should have. I just want to put this in context. $750,000 contribution, which at the very least, by the memorandum, guarantees 33 affordable units in perpetuity. That's a subsidy of less than $23,000 per unit to have in perpetuity affordable housing units.
True.
I'm not suggesting that's our plan or anything else, but to suggest that the town's not getting a benefit in even the worst-case scenario, I think is missing somewhat of the point, so.
Yeah, but the zoning requires 27 of those units, right? So you're really $750,000 really represents an increase of 6 units.
Yeah.
From what would be required under the base zoning. So that math doesn't work for me.
It's
750 divided by 6.
125K per unit at 6 units.
And again, if that's what the Affordable Housing Trust believes is necessary, I have a lot of faith in them, right? But I literally just got this letter today.
I guess just thinking out loud, if you were to construct an affordable housing unit, you're not constructing one for $125,000. So I'm, trying to put myself in Affordable Housing Trust's shoes. They're getting 6 units for $125,000 each,
At
which
least
is not
6 units, right?
right. At least 6 units, and maybe that's the gamble, is saying, we'll at least get 6 units. 125K is reasonable enough for those units, and potentially we'll get even more if they stay rental.
Well, we won't really get even more, we'll get credit from.
We'll get credit for it,
Which
correct,
is really,
yeah.
that's important
Right.
towards maintaining our
Right.
10% and so on, right?
Right.
Like the other 99 units, is that what it is? 99 units are gonna be market rate, so they're not.
Right, no, I
but
get that. You're just not
That's
getting,
fine, I mean, he's gonna make some money somewhere.
you're not getting units
Yeah.
for less than $125,000.
No, I
constructed,
mean,
right?
the Affordable Housing Trust can't build 6 units.
Right, so, and I'm guessing if I had to put myself in their shoes, that's the math that they did.
Right.
And that is.
That's
that
less
is-
than that's less than they are charging, if that's the right term, for
Right.
people to buy out of the obligation.
Right.
And that argument carries a lot of weight with me, John. I just, again, all this came up today.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's good to
that's why I
talk it
wanted
through.
to discuss it. I'm fine moving past the affordable piece after that discussion now, so.
Peter, did you have any questions?
Not at this moment.
Okay.
So I guess,
Any other members of the
yeah,
board
so I
have
guess
any
the question for the
questions?
board, and I'm not trying to push this through, but is the only standing issue the B-Walt?
But it looks to me
I
like,
think it's also, isn't it also the sewer?
But that's not up to us. We can get that information, but we can't decide whether they get the sewer or not, or compel DPW to issue sewer allocation. Right, am I saying that right?
Well, I mean, the outstanding issues, I haven't even read this latest version, so.
all right,
you know,
well then if you, okay,
Right,
so
that-
then we need to read the latest version. As far as the sewer goes, my understanding was they have come to some sort of an agreement. We've not seen anything in writing.
I'd just like
So-
to see it, because
Right.
as a board, it helps us for
Yeah.
future planning,
Yeah,
so.
so we can make sure that Lisa's at the next meeting also. And by then, I think they will have had a chance to talk to DPW, which, since Chris has been away, that was another sort of outstanding issue. Is that correct, Mr. Downey? You need to talk to DPW?
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
You need to talk to DPW, to Chris Payant?
We have an agreement in principle. I mean,
Right, yeah.
I will talk to him about confirming that with an
Yeah,
agreement in principle.
that is
I
all
don't
I'm
think the
asking.
agreement will be drafted before the next board meeting.
That
All right,
makes
so
perfect
before
sense.
we move, I'm sorry.
Do you have another question?
Well, because I am frustrated that we have to postpone this applicant further, we had canceled our July 2nd meeting. I would be willing to discuss having another meeting before July 16th in an attempt to move this forward expeditiously. I
think it should just get moved to the 16th.
And we've already adjourned some other matters to the 16th, so.
Well, that's fine, those,
Trying to, yeah. But the second seemed to be very difficult. There'll be a lot of people.
well, we don't have to meet on the
Thing.
2nd, we could meet a different night of the week. We could meet next week.
I think at this point, because of the comments that have gone back and forth, let's adjourn this to the 16th, and hopefully we can wrap it up at that particular time, which is what I would look to be able to do. Hopefully everybody have their questions answered, and we've been able to talk to various members of the town administration if they need further answers. But I don't see how we can particularly move it up at this point. I think that's going to be somewhat difficult.
We, as a board, could decide to have another meeting, that's how we would. But if you don't want to do that, if I'm the only one who's willing to do that, then we can move past it and do it.
I'm flexible, so I'm fine, but I know there's concerns from other board members, so I don't want to force that issue.
Fine with that being the 16th.
Peter?
16th. I won't be around for a good chunk of,
And that's what I remembered, is I didn't think Peter was going to be around, and it certainly is one of these matters we want a full board on. Yeah. We could move it up to the second Tuesday, which would be the what, 10th,
9th.
9th?
Would be the
I'm away.
Your way, okay, see, that's where we were running into problems. All right, I think we better leave it till the 16th.
What
at
about
this
next
point.
Tuesday, the 25th?
Well, I'm reluctant to do it then, because you have said you've not had a chance to look at things, and at the meantime, if you get in a problem where you haven't had a chance, you want to talk to the Housing Trust, you need to talk to Jenny. I'm concerned that your questions will not be answered, and we'll end up in a situation that we already are now. So I would prefer, I think next week is entirely too soon.
and I can't even be here next week
Okay,
on Tuesday.
that answers the question. So I would say we're going to look to the 16th to do
So-
this.
So we were all ready to move this forward tonight, and now we think that we need a month to figure this out.
I mean, I had my,
All right, I know, I mean, that's fine, it seems to be that we'll move it to the
it's,
16th.
I don't think it's just schedules, that's why it needs to get up.
I mean,
to-
I don't have to be here for the meeting. If you wanted to schedule it for the 9th or I don't have to be here. If that's, I have other commitments and I don't know, I can't put them on someone else.
Okay,
I mean, if you want to move the board meeting up, and it certainly it can be done. I mean, we have a quorum. We're going to be missing people any number one of those weeks, but we will have a quorum.
With all due respect, a week's not going to change the world. Let's
Okay.
aim at the 16th. Let me be clear on two things before you make the motion. We're going to speak with DPW, getting you a memo that there's an agreement in principle with regard to sewer.
Right.
We're going to formally respond to some traffic letter that got submitted Friday that we haven't seen yet. Is there anything else that you want the applicant to do before the 16th?
You said that you'd had you said you'd had you'd met with the Housing Trust and you've come out with some agreement with them on that. Is there anything written on that that would be, that should be presented to the board prior to our meeting?
The Housing Trust Task Force
Yeah,
gave us a memo as to their proposal and asked whether that would work for the applicant. We agreed, we said it would. Then they met as a board, and I understand that they approved it as a board. That memo you have already.
that's the one that we got today.
With the conditions.
okay, all right, as long as that, okay.
Yeah. But I mean, I think if I read it correctly, the concerns with the money and the conversion of the ownership is understood now. Because it's 125 per unit,
Right,
which
right.
is, and then
Yeah.
the gamble on the rental
Yeah.
versus ownership. But I could be wrong. Is that?
No, I'm willing to move past that issue now because of
Yeah.
your point that, you know, they can't build a unit for 125,000. So at the very worst case, we've spent 125,000 for those 6 additional units, 125 each.
Right.
Right?
So I don't think
And
we
that
need-
is worthwhile money. I would encourage the Affordable Housing Trust to do that with any developer.
So I think that means we don't need to have Affordable Housing Trust person here.
Right, okay, so that issue, we think we've
I think that's
taken
resolved.
care of, all right.
Unless
So
somebody
the
else-
I
only
agree.
issue that I can see.
I agree with you.
Okay. The only issue that I can see at the moment that we seem to be hung up on is the B-wall.
Yeah, I just.
And that's the one you're
again,
hung up on.
I just
And I
want to
wanna review this.
understand the rationale for, I mean, I have my own thoughts on some of the things in the active transportation letter, but I haven't seen any official response to that. And it sounds like it's because they just got it. I don't know.
But I don't know, I think they answered the questions, quite frankly, in preceding things.
We
but
will,
that was-
we will provide a singular comprehensive
Thank you.
reply.
Hazel, I think the other concern was we just got these revised
Right.
conditions now, and we haven't had a real chance to
chance
look
to
through
look
them.
at
So there might be other stuff in there that we have questions on.
Right.
I had reviewed them and quite frankly felt that But yes, now this will give everyone a chance to take a look at that. If there are no more questions from board
I
members.
just had one other thing, just if I might, I
Yes.
apologize. The second thing I wanted to ask was, for the 16th, do you need any of the rest of the development team? I know you don't, I'm going to be here, obviously, but does anybody need traffic, architectural, civil engineering?
I wouldn't think anything.
I have no further questions on that.
Personally, I don't know. the
I have no
members of
further
the board.
questions on those
Yeah,
aspects.
Right,
No, I think we'll be okay.
okay. Should be fine. All right, I'd like to open, if there's anybody from the public who'd like to comment on this application, if you could introduce yourself. And I'd like to keep any comments to
Yeah,
2 minutes or
Ellen
under.
Google, I'm the chair of the Active Transportation and Safety Committee. I know you got our letter. It is a little different from the first one that got sent. Our committee, it doesn't say in the letter, but our committee took a vote on this. It was unanimous. We met a week ago, Monday, and discussed this letter, and we were authorized to send it and sign it. But I did want to highlight one thing in here. You know, we are concerned that it's going to be a substandard trail, basically, and not up to the standards that we need for a commuter trail. So one of the things, as I was thinking, and I know the proponent only has so much money to spend, so I get that. But one of the things as I got thinking is there a way that you could approve this project and not require that they build BWALT now? Because there are state and federal funding sources that would be available down the line if it's a commuter trail, so that the town could apply for those grants and that funding and build it and do it the way it really should be done. So I just thought that's something you might consider if there's a way to do that. So having the proponent leave, don't do anything that's going to preclude the way it's laid out in the feasibility study, in the BWALT feasibility study that was accepted by the town. So if the proponent would leave it so that it could be built in the future, we would just leave it for now and have it built later is one idea I had. That's in here. Yeah, that's the
Can I
main
ask a
thing.
follow-up?
Thank you. John, you had a question?
Can I ask a follow-up? Does the construction of the trail now preclude the town from getting those funds to upgrade at a later date?
One of the things I have heard is that it's going to be hard to get maintenance money from state and federal sources if it's built this way. I mean, I don't know that you want to build it now and rip it out.
I'm just saying, if it's in place and it's just a matter of improving what's there in 10 years and getting this funding for it, is that a better solution than not building it and then waiting for these funds that we potentially may not get to then build
I
it?
can't answer that except to put on my other hat as a cyclist. You can tell I'm a cyclist. I biked down here tonight and say that from what I saw of the plan, and I don't know how it could be improved, but personally, I'm not biking there. I'm going to be on the driveway that goes in and out of Gannon Way. I'll be riding with the traffic. For one thing, as I saw where it is, there's, and this may be true no matter which side it's on, but there's all these crossings, and there's more crossings on the south side, on the side it's on, than on the side we recommend. I want to be further out from those crossings, so I have more time to react to a driver who's blowing through there. I would feel safer biking in the driveway, in the Gannon Way that goes in there. So
Okay, so I don't think we're ever going to have a trail without some
yeah.
traffic
But
crossing.
if it were wider, that would
I
be
mean,
a
we
little
got to cross
better.
Lyman Street. I'd be more concerned with that crossing than I would.
Well,
But
you know.
let me ask you this: Are we as a town going to just build the trail where and how we want without asking the landowner what their preference is? Because it seems to me like this applicant's willing to spend a lot of money to build it, but they want to build it on the north side. I actually see some benefits to it being on the north side.
Well, one
One of my questions for you was, is there like some written summary of this meeting from 2017? Or is it just based on Don's recollection?
I'm sorry, what,
Is it this meeting in 2017 where everybody concluded that it
Yeah.
should be on the south side? Is there some type of written report, summary, or is it just based on Don's recollection?
not that I know of. I believe I was there at that meeting as well. I remember all those people being there, and we walked along Gannon Way. I wasn't maybe tuned in as well, or had the same memory as Don. So I don't think there's anything written there. But one of the things is that the way it looks now is it's just not wide enough. So one of the major things I think in this letter was, we just heard from the traffic engineer, we still believe that an 11-foot lane with a 1-foot shoulder should be sufficient for trucks, even semi-trucks. For one thing, it's a driveway. The speeds are 20 miles per hour or less. And as Don pointed out or it was our letter, that for many years, Flanders Road was used by semis, and that road on each side only has 11 feet plus 1 foot, because DPW just restriped it. They restriped it as an 11-foot lane. So I'm not convinced that you can't go to 11 feet plus 1 foot shoulder and then be able to make the B-wall through that section wider.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
All right, so could I have a motion to continue this matter to July 16th?
I move that the planning board continue the hearing for 18 and 30 Lyman Street as hearing until July 16, 2024, hearing date.
Second.
You ready to vote? All in favor? All right, we'll see you on the 16th.
Thank you.
Hazel, Kristen, maybe this is for you. Can we get a digital copy of this?
Sorry, original?
A digital
Oh, digital.
copy of the revised conditions, or
Yeah.
just? So I know you said you had a chance to review it, Hazel, but
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm not sure when you did
yeah,
that, because
this afternoon.
we just got it.
All right. Planning updates, I think we got a memo from Jenny, but I don't think there was really anything there that I focused on. She's not with us tonight. So the planning board committee appointments, we do need to deal with, because most people's appointments, those that are on committees that need appointments, end as of June 30th. And Kristen, I think you sent us a list, and the only ones that are design review, what were the other ones?
Capital expenditure and CMRPC.
Oh, CMRPC.
I can definitely do the capital expenditures again. I mean, during the holidays, it's a lot. There's a decent amount of meeting dates, but the CMRPC,
Right.
if someone can
I think,
step up and do that, that would be ideal.
I think John said that he would be willing to
Okay.
do
Yeah,
that.
I can do that.
Beautiful. And I don't mind doing that. The other one.
All right, that works well then. I think other than that, all the committees that we're on are indeterminate or lengths. I don't think they come out. Design review, I have been on, so I guess you have to officially reappoint me to the design review board.
Do we also reappoint Jenny as the alternate for CMRPC?
Yeah.
Unless somebody else, I guess, wants to be the alternate, or is the town planner usually the alternate?
I think she's usually the alternate. All right, so we need CMRPC. We should do that first then.
Can we do them as a slate?
Sure. I think we can vote
Yes, we could
to
do that.
renew these
Great.
appointments.
Yep, so the three are appointment to myself for design review, John Gelsich for CMRPC, and Peter to capital expenditures.
And Jenny to CMRPC alternate.
Okay.
Correct.
And Jenny is the alternate to,
I move the board appoint those positions as read by the chair.
Second.
any questions? All in favor? Okay, appointment's done. Do we have minutes from June 4th?
Did I get those? Oh, yes, we did. My apologies.
That's all right, I don't remember seeing them.
June 10th.
Those are the minutes. I don't know if you want to look at them.
Everyone had a chance to look at them?
Yeah. You haven't looked at them either?
I haven't looked at them, but I'm,
Could we move this to the next meeting? I don't think, I forgot to review them, and perhaps other people didn't either. So let's move, can we move that to next meeting, review those minutes? Okay, upcoming meeting, July 16th is our next meeting, and at that point, we can make a decision as to whether we want to meet twice in August or once. But open as far as that goes. All right, is there anything else anybody'd like to bring to the board's attention this evening? If not, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much.
Kristen, I apologize, I just saw that